In my past life, my fiancé and I had an argument in the car, which led to a crash that cost me my legs as a dancer. Out of guilt, he married me. Now disabled, everyone praised him for his loyalty and righteousness. But after marriage, he was often absent at night, and my in-laws treated me with constant disdain. Later, I discovered his affair with my sister. I accused, grieved, and made a scene, only to hear him say, "All you lost were your legs," but she lost her love. After that, they became the pitiful lovebirds praised by all. As for me, isolated in the attic, I became the infamous madwoman. Now, this madwoman has been reborn. I suddenly opened my eyes. The makeup mirror reflected a face of exquisite beauty, with a trace of youthful arrogance still lingering between the brows. Instinctively lowering my gaze, my eyes fell upon the expensive robe, where those slender yet powerful legs remained unharmed. My heart pounded wildly in my chest, as if it might shatter my ribs. Gripping the edge of the dressing table tightly, my breath grew uncontrollably rapid. I've been reborn before the legs were broken. The phone screen lit up silently, displaying a long-awaited tender message from Cade Yang. "Vera, when shall we go for the wedding dress fitting?" Deliberately ignoring his message, I just stared blankly at the date. Exactly 3 months remained until the car accident that would alter my fate. Countless scenes flashed through my mind. The car crash in my past life, the betrayal by Cade Yang and my sister Nova Jiang, and the version of myself who lost both legs. Unable to return to the stage, reduced to a pitiful laughingstock, my body began to tremble, a mix of lingering regret and the joy of a second chance intertwining. I took a deep breath. I must never repeat the same mistakes. Fortunately, I am still the renowned dancer admired by many today, not reduced to utter ruin and destitution. I stood up, left the house, and discreetly yet urgently mobilized all my connections and resources, commissioning the most reputable detective agency in the industry to clearly outline my task. Within 3 months, I want irrefutable evidence of Cade and Nova Jiang's affair, photos, videos, hotel records. The clearer, the better. Money is no object. After that, I returned to the family villa, calmly went upstairs, and headed toward my mother and sister's rooms. A nosy servant saw me and eagerly said, "Miss is back. Madam went for a spa and isn't home today." I know, I'm here to look for my dance notes," I replied. First, I entered my mother's room, scanning the area, and spotted a comb tangled with a few strands of hair. Then, from my sister's pillow, I retrieved a lock of her curly hair. Carefully, I placed each strand of hair into separate sealed bags before turning to leave. Though my heart raced with uncontrollable tension and excitement, my expression remained perfectly composed. In my past life, when it was revealed that my younger sister Nova Jiang was an illegitimate child, it was already too late. As a useless person and my mother being just a housewife, we had no power to resist. What else could we do besides crying day and night? But now, everything will be different. Soon, it was sent to the most authoritative DNA testing center. During the days waiting for the DNA results, I operated like a precision machine. During the day, I sweated profusely in the rehearsal hall, perfecting every arabesque to its utmost. At night, I shuttled between various stages, and after 4 consecutive hours of performance under the spotlight, the blood seeping from my toes stained the satin of my ballet shoes red. Memories of my past life haunt me like ghosts. That Vera Jiang, confined to a wheelchair, trapped within the gilded walls of a luxurious mansion, utterly powerless, until she descended into madness, unnoticed in the endless darkness and solitude. They drove me to madness together, yet blamed me for being narrow-minded. Back then, I had nothing left but occasional scraps of pity. I couldn't even perform the most basic plie. Now, I greedily seize every inch of the stage, letting the pain in my toes remind me, this is truly living, live only for yourself. To hell with love, commercial performances, competitions, charity galas. I take them all. When the applause surges like a tide, I close my eyes in the bow of the curtain call, letting tears mixed with sweat fall onto the stage floor. Those peers who once called me aloof wouldn't understand. This isn't a mad craving for money, but a post-rebirth feast of indulgence. I'm determined to reclaim every spin and leap I missed in my past life, tenfold. At the same time, I understand better than anyone that this engagement isn't something that can be called off so easily. In my past life, Cade Yang played his role too perfectly. The model fiancé, the filial son-in-law, the promising young talent. Everyone believed that I, Vera Jiang, was incredibly fortunate to marry him, as if I'd accumulated 8 lifetimes of good karma. Looking back now, it's truly ironic. The media that praised him, the elders who urged me to endure, the socialites who envied me, they all ended up laughing at my expense. Since he enjoys playing the devoted lover, I'll accompany him in this act to the very end. Then, I want everyone to see clearly what a filthy face lies beneath this perfect gentleman when his flawless mask is torn off. So, despite my busy schedule, I still maintain my relationship with Cade. Like the most dedicated actress, I perfectly replicate the image of a bride deeply in love. During candlelit dinners, I pretend not to notice the faint strawberry marks on his shirt collar or the cloying perfume lingering on his cuffs, even when he leans in close. I shyly lower my lashes, just enough to conceal the cold disdain in my eyes. Cade Yang is indeed blessed with striking good looks. Under the light, his deep-set eyes and brows are gilded with a golden edge, and when he smiles, charming fine lines appear at the corners of his eyes. Those well-defined hands of his never fail to draw envious whispers from the socialites around us whenever they hold mine. "Vera, you've been different lately," he murmured in a low voice, stroking my fingers. For better or worse, I tilted my head with a light laugh, my earrings casting delicate glimmers by my cheeks. "Undeniably for the better. I always knew how exceptional my Vera is," he said with burning intensity, yet sighed softly. "But now you're becoming even more dazzling. I fear I might not be able to hold on to you. This is the truth. My concert tours are sold out every night, and endorsement deals keep pouring in, even when I soften my tone to call him Cade." He can still sense the growing edge beneath my wings, but right now, basking in the smug satisfaction of having his cake and eating it too, he doesn't take this slight unease seriously. By day, he's whispering sweet nothings to Nova Jiang in the office, and by night, he's holding my hand under the envious gazes of the crowd. This master of time management even manages to flash me convincingly tender looks between his affairs. Next month's engagement party, he suddenly lifts my hand to his lips amid the crowd's gasps. "Meeting you must have used up all my luck. How ironic, in my past life. It was this handsome face that had deceived me, making me believe those words, 'Marrying you is my responsibility.' Now, watching him act, I just feel a headache coming on." That's what I thought in my heart. But I couldn't say it out loud. "Me too, Tilda," I cooed, deliberately reddening my eyes as I leaned in, breathing softly by his ear like an orchid's whisper. Marrying Cade is something I've dreamed of every night. Inside, I was gagging 1,000 times over. I can't help but think of my past life. After everything was exposed, he said his sister was his true love, and he only married me out of a sense of moral obligation. My sister, on the other hand, claimed she wanted to protect my self-esteem and spare me from pain, which was why she endured the hardship and kept deceiving me all along. Yet, the fact that he and her true love couldn't be together openly was all my fault, but if he had told me earlier, with my pride, I would never have stayed with him. How ridiculous. They actually think their charity-like love is for my own good, and so we harbored our own ulterior motives for nearly half a month, as the wedding date approached. The private detective worked with astonishing efficiency. Before long, in my spacious private office, I received a thick manila envelope. The photos are extremely high definition, showing Cade Yang and Nova Jiang passionately kissing in a dimly lit corner of an underground parking lot, his hand boldly slipping beneath Nova Jiang's top. Another set of photos, taken through the gap in the curtains of a cheap motel, clearly captures their entangled silhouettes. There's even a short, blurry but identifiable video clip of Nova Jiang laughing coquettishly as she straddles Cade Yang's lap, her posture utterly wanton. As expected, it's hard to describe the feeling. Is it hatred or love? The pain is gone now, leaving only a sense of worthlessness for the miserable death I suffered in my past life. To put it bluntly, I must have been blind back then. Meanwhile, the DNA test results have quietly found their way into my drawer, black and white. The conclusion is brutally clear. The biological mother-daughter relationship between Yi Jian and Nova Jiang is excluded. Heh. I almost let out a cold laugh. All the fragments fit together seamlessly, revealing the enormous lie and betrayal that my father, Jiang Yubai, had meticulously concealed for 20 years. But before everything is ready, I can't reveal my hand too quickly. I need to endure until everything is ready, endure until the decisive moment, and I am almost prepared. On an afternoon when father was away on a business trip and Nova Jiang had excused herself to go out with classmates, though in reality she was on a date with Kadiang, I drove back to the Jiang family villa once again. In the living room, mother, Yi Jian, was leisurely trimming a pot of rare orchids. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a soft golden glow on her well-maintained profile. She wore high-quality loungewear, her expression serene, exuding the weariness of someone long accustomed to a life of comfort and detachment from the world. 2 decades as a housewife had long since smoothed away the edges of the once defiant heiress who had risked severing ties with her family for love, leaving behind only a docile shell dependent on her husband. "Mom, I'm back," I said as I approached, my voice soft and carrying a barely perceptible tension. She looked up with a loving smile. "Vera, you're back. Why didn't you go out with Kadiang? The wedding is approaching. You should spend more time nurturing your relationship. You can't just focus on work all the time." "Mom, there's something very important I need to talk to you about." I sat down across from her, my back straight, and looked at her calmly with steady eyes. "I want to call off the engagement." "What?" Yi Jian's hands, which were trimming the flower stems, paused for a moment as she looked at me in confusion. "How can that be? Kadiang is such an outstanding man. How could you even think of such a thing? Could it be that Nova is getting too close to Kadiang again? Let me tell you, your mother was quite the jealous type back in the day, but when a man is close to other women before marriage, things always change after tying the knot. As long as he hasn't truly wronged you, life can still go on. Take it from someone who's been there. Marriage is all about mutual tolerance." I didn't argue. This scenario had long been within my expectations. In her past life, she was completely deceived by Kadiang. Unable to understand why I cried and made scenes every day in the Yang household, why her once obedient daughter had become so hysterical, she simply thought I had broken down after losing my legs, just for me to cry every night at home. Beyond that, she couldn't do anything, nor did she know anything. I'm just grateful that now I can still choose to speak the truth to my mother. Perhaps one day I will leave this home, leave this place of sorrow, but I wanted to at least try to win over my mother, who had always doted on me since childhood. Could she possibly stand by my side? I gently pushed the 2 prepared document folders toward her on the glass coffee table. The craft paper envelopes were left unsealed, revealing a corner of the photos inside, the entangled figures of Kadiang and Nova Jiang clearly visible. Yi Jian froze for a moment, then furrowed her brows with a hint of displeasure and confusion at the interruption. She set down the silver flower scissors, her fair and delicate fingers, rounded with the softness characteristic of a homemaker. Reaching for the folders, she pulled out the folder containing the photos first, one after another. The unsightly photos slid onto the smooth glass coffee table with faint rustling sounds. Her gaze fell on the first photo, her pupils contracting abruptly as the color drained from her face in an instant, leaving it deathly pale. What is this? Vera, where did you get these photos? Who gave them to you? Are they photoshopped?" Her voice suddenly rose, sharp and trembling with disbelief. She frantically grabbed the photos, her fingers clenching so hard her knuckles turned white, as if she wanted to tear them apart, as if destroying these images would erase the nauseating truth. "Mom," my voice was eerily calm, like a blade tempered with ice, cutting cleanly through the illusion she was trying to maintain. "They were taken by a private investigator. The negatives and original files are all in my possession. Kadiang and Nova Jiang, they've been together for a long time." Yi Jian's body swayed violently. As if struck by an invisible hammer, she jerked her head up, her pupils contracting, her eyes filled with unbearable grief and fury. "Nova Jiang, how dare she? He's your fiancé. How could she seduce her own sister's future husband? And this," I interrupted her on the verge of collapse, pointing to another file folder, my voice devoid of any emotion. "Take a look at this too." Yi Jian felt as if she had grabbed the last lifeline, yet also as if she was about to plunge into an even deeper abyss, her hands trembling. She almost snatched the document folder, roughly pulling out the papers inside. On the DNA test report, the bold black conclusion, "Excluded biological mother-daughter relationship," seared her eyes and heart like a red-hot branding iron. Time seemed to freeze. She remained frozen in place, head bowed over the report. The sunlight was still bright, but it could no longer reach her suddenly darkened, hollow eyes. A carefully tended orchid by her feet silently shed a leaf. How could this be? How could this be? There's nothing impossible about it. If you carefully recall the details of the birth back then, you'll realize something was off. Hee. A broken, discordant laugh forced its way from her throat, brimming with fury and grief. Yes, of course. My sister was premature, kept in an incubator for a week after birth without us seeing her. It must have been then. Jiang Yubai, Su Mion, you despicable pair, you've deceived me for 20 years. The daughter I've cherished like the apple of my eye for 2 decades, turns out to be someone else's bastard. Her mother's fingers suddenly clenched around the DNA report, her knuckles turning a terrifying shade of pale. So that's how it is. No wonder Jiang Yubai doted on that bastard so excessively. Her voice had suddenly become frighteningly calm, always at the bottom of her class, unable to master even the most basic posture in etiquette lessons. Playing the piano as if she was smashing it, with each word, her voice grew colder. I always thought it was spoiling that ruined her, but now I see, back when Jiang Yubai became successful with the help of her own team, he had once proposed a divorce, unwilling to let the husband, for whom she had severed ties with her own family, fall into the hands of another woman. She had firmly refused at the time. He had also promised never to repeat his mistake, yet in the end, was it all just her wishful thinking? Truly, a virtuous wife lifts me to great heights, and in return, I gift her with a mistress's child. She suddenly raised her head, her twisted face already streaked with tears, burning with a hatred fierce enough to destroy everything. Like a mother beast utterly enraged and bereft of her young, she grabbed the crystal ashtray beside her and was about to hurl it with all her might at the enormous family portrait on the wall. In the photo, Jiang Yubai held her and their 2 daughters, smiling with smug satisfaction. I'll kill him. I'll kill them all. I'll go to the company and tear Jiang Yuebai's face apart, she shrieked hysterically, her voice hoarse and broken. This crazed appearance, I think I know where my madness in the previous life came from, Mom. I quickly stood up, gripping her raised arm tightly with all my strength to steady her swaying body. My voice suddenly rose, carrying a force that cut through the chaos. Calm down. What good will it do us if you go and make a scene now, except to alert him in advance and give him a chance to destroy the evidence? The most likely outcome is simply becoming another version of my past self. Just another woman labeled as a madwoman locked away in the attic in this lifetime. My gaze locked onto her frenzied eyes as I spoke word by word. Look at yourself now. Look at this family. Back then, you cut ties with your own family for him. Poured everything into lifting him up. And what did you get in return? His shameless affairs, him bringing home a bastard to replace your real daughter. For 20 years, you've played the role of a devoted wife, reducing yourself to his appendage. A wealthy lady who only knows how to spend money, with no fangs left. You don't even have the ability to protect your own daughter anymore. What do you have to fight him with? What can you use to tear his mask off? Every word lashed like a whip against the mother's long-numbed heart. Her struggling movements froze, and amidst her tear-streaked, hatred-filled face, a flicker of bewilderment and deeper anguish emerged. She stared at her well-maintained yet visibly powerless hands. Then at the opulent but hollow living room that felt like a prison cage, a crushing sense of helplessness and utter emptiness overwhelmed her. Then, what do we do? Her voice dropped to a hoarse whisper. Thick with despair and helplessness, Vera Jiang, my child, what do we do? My real daughter, where is she? Is she suffering? At the mention of her unknown true sister, her tears surged anew. The raw, gut-wrenching pain unique to a mother, watching the fragile flame of hatred and grief rekindle in my mother's eyes. Still so brittle it could shatter at a touch. I slowly released my grip on her and clasped her icy, trembling hand tightly in mine. My voice softened, yet carried an unshakable strength and a strange, compelling rationality. Mom, don't be afraid, I'm here, we'll take this step by step. First, you must stand up again, go and apologize to your grandparents, beg the Yi family for help. You were always the largest investor in the Jiang family's company. Only by reclaiming what is rightfully yours and taking control of the company will you have the power to find your sister and make Jiang Yubai and Su Mion pay, not like now. Trapped in this gilded cage, screaming and crying, helpless as a lamb to the slaughter, Yi Jian stared blankly at me, at this daughter she had always been so proud of, who now seemed like a stranger forged in the fires of hell. The cold, ruthless determination and clear calculation in her eyes, far beyond her years, shone like a lighthouse in the dark, offering a glimmer of direction in the whirlpool of despair. As for Cade Yang and Nova Jiang, a cold, mirthless smile curled at the corners of my lips. I'll bless them, let this so-called true love be locked together forever, drowning in the scorn of everyone, ruin and disgrace. That's the fate they deserve, Mom. My voice dropped to a whisper in the end, carrying a soul-piercing question. You chose to endure back then, and what did it bring you? 20 years of deceit and the heart-wrenching pain of having your daughter swapped. Do you really want to force me to follow your path now, to jump into that pit of fire, knowing full well that Cade Yang is scum, the murderer who cost me my legs, all for the sake of so-called face and perfection? Do you want to see my future child possibly swapped and abused in some corner too? No. Yi Jian seemed to be jolted awake by those final words, letting out a short, piercing cry. The last traces of hesitation and weakness in her eyes were completely burned away, replaced by a ruthless, all-or-nothing resolve. The flames that had been extinguished for 20 years finally roared back to life in her gaze, burning with the dark light of vengeance. She suddenly gripped my hand with terrifying strength, her nails nearly digging into my flesh. Her voice no longer trembled. Only icy, venomous hatred remained. You're right, my daughter, I was wrong. I've been a fool for 20 years. I can't let you walk the same path I did. Jiang Yubai, Cade Yang, Su Mion, and that bastard, what they owe us, they'll pay back 100, 1,000-fold. I'll listen to you. We will destroy them together. The mother-daughter alliance was formally sealed at this moment, with blood, tears, and betrayal as the offering. Once Yi Jian made up her mind, she acted without hesitation, setting aside 2 decades of pride and resentment. She personally returned to the Yi family ancestral home to bow her head and apologize to her elderly parents, whom she had nearly severed ties with in anger years ago. In the Yi family ancestral residence, she methodically exposed Jiang Yuebai's betrayal, the heinous act of swapping their daughter, as well as his potential financial and corruption issues within the company over the years. I've investigated. He has a $2.8 billion trust fund overseas, which was embezzled from public funds. But the only beneficiary is Nova Jiang. Dad, Mom. She knelt on the green brick floor of the Yi family ancestral hall, her back straight as a rod. Your daughter was blind back then. The teacup in the old master's hand shattered on the floor with a sharp crack. Of course, beyond their fury, the Yi family felt even more heartache for Yi Jian, their once most beloved youngest daughter. Moreover, the support from back then wasn't entirely in vain. Perhaps it was another investment arranged by fate, and now it's time for the Yi family to reclaim both the principal and the interest. The Jiang Financial Group has grown sufficiently plump in recent years, whether for familial ties or financial gain. The Yi family couldn't possibly remain unmoved. With little resistance, the massive machinery of the Yi family immediately sprang into action. Funds, connections, professional auditing and legal teams quietly infiltrated the company that Jiang Yubai had built and expanded using the Yi family's money and connections. After returning from her parents' home, Yi Jian no longer indulged in flower arranging, shopping, or making soups. She donned her long unused professional attire, her gaze sharp as a blade, leaving early and returning late each day, with the assistance of the Yi family's trusted aides. She began purging Jiang Yuebai's influence within the company with swift and decisive measures, discreetly transferring core assets and client resources. Although Jiang Yubai was unaware of the specifics, he vaguely sensed the impending storm within the company and the growing unfamiliarity of his wife. Honey, is it because I haven't done enough? Why don't you stay home properly and always go out showing your face? It makes me look incompetent. Jiang Yubai feigned anger. Half jokingly and half seriously, is the company's situation really that good right now? If so, I might as well reject the collaboration proposal for those plots of land in Binhai. Yi Jian casually revealed a few inner pages of the business contracts, causing Jiang Yuebai's eyes to light up. You can secure the land in Binhai. Jiang Yuebai's anger dissipated, replaced by a smile that, paired with his refined appearance, painted the perfect picture of a devoted husband. Honey, wouldn't it be too tiring for you to handle the negotiations? How about, the wife of the Binhai CEO is an old friend of mine. Are you sure you want to handle the negotiations? Perhaps it would be better to arrange for the wife to come instead. Jiang Yubai smiled awkwardly. Meanwhile, I led my dance troupe to win numerous awards, and I myself became the first Chinese principal dancer of the Vienna Golden Ballet, gaining worldwide acclaim. My constant globetrotting for performances gave Cade Yang and Nova ample opportunities to meet in secret, allowing Nova to get pregnant faster, and in turn, providing me with more concrete evidence. Cade Yang was quite pleased that my business gave him more freedom, but he didn't forget to blame me for being too occupied with work and not spending enough time with him. I was utterly disgusted inside, yet I didn't want to shoulder such a heavy blame. With a few sweet, affectionate verbal reassurances, I easily soothed him into silence without a single complaint. Afterward, I continued playing the role of a blissful bride-to-be, full of anticipation for the upcoming engagement. In front of Cade Yang, my smile remained as sweet as ever, my eyes still brimming with love, even more tender and submissive than in my past life. I accepted all his date invitations, held his hand tightly in public, and let the photographers capture our loving moments, flooding the media with marketing about our perfect match. Vera Jiang, do you really love me? After one dinner, as Cade Yang drove me home, he tentatively asked, his eyes carrying a hint of scrutiny that was hard to detect. He seemed to have keenly noticed the icy detachment beneath my flawless mask. After all, the current me is too dazzling. While Nova feels more real and attainable, even my slightest indifference makes him uneasy. He's also quite chauvinistic, always believing that a woman being far stronger than a man isn't a good thing. Besides, I'm not as clingy as he imagines. I sneered inwardly, but on the surface, I let just the right amount of shyness and melancholy show. Leaning lightly against his shoulder, my voice soft and dependent, I said, maybe it's pre-wedding jitters. Cade Yang, I'm so scared I won't be a good Mrs. Yang. Scared of losing you. You're so wonderful, and so many girls out there adore you. If I don't strive to be better, how can I hold on to your heart? I paused at the perfect moment, lifting my eyes to meet his, my long lashes seemingly misted with tears. You wouldn't abandon me, would you? My words clearly stroked his ego immensely. He immediately pulled me closer, his chin brushing against my hair as he reassured me with fervent promises. Silly, how could I? No matter what you're like, I'll love you, always love you. His vow was sincere and heartfelt, his gaze so deep it could drown a person, as if in our past life, the one who looked at my crippled self with disdain wasn't him at all. I believe you. I nestled into his embrace, my voice muffled, filled with complete trust, yet my fingers quietly clenched at my side. Cade Yang, I've noted your vow. Soon, everyone will see just how cheap your promises are. The day I had carefully chosen had arrived. It was a grand celebration banquet for the successful signing of an important project by Cade Yang's multinational corporation, and also the climax of our pre-wedding publicity campaign announcing our engagement. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the banquet hall as bright as daylight. Cade Yang, with my hand resting on his arm, moved gracefully among the guests. His tailored suit accentuated his tall, straight figure, while the diamond on his tie clip sparkled in harmony with my earrings. The constant flashes from photographers' cameras captured us as the perfect cover couple for business magazines. This merger deal was all thanks to Director Yang, said the president of Bank A, raising his champagne glass as he approached. Miss Jiang is truly fortunate. I pursed my lips in a faint smile and gave Cade Yang's arm a gentle pinch with my fingertips. He immediately understood, leaning down to whisper a playful remark in my ear, eliciting good-natured laughter from the surrounding guests. The movement conveniently allowed the cameras to catch the faint lipstick mark peeking from his collar, a peach-pink kiss Nova Jiang had left this morning. Yet, in the corner, Nova Jiang was clutching her fifth martini, her eyes slightly red. She wore a champagne-colored gown similar to mine today, except mine was straight from the haute couture runway, while hers was clearly a hastily altered piece from last season. Every time someone at the main table cast envious glances our way, her slender fingers tightened around the rim of her glass. Big sister, she suddenly stumbled over to me, reeking of alcohol mixed with jasmine perfume. I feel a little dizzy. Cade Yang instinctively reached to steady her waist, then recoiled as if burned. Watching his Adam's apple bob and the fine sweat bead at his temple, I nearly laughed aloud. How splendid it is, two people whose love is said to conquer all, yet they cower like rats in a sewer, trembling at even the slightest touch. Unable to face the light, "I'll take her to the lounge," I said considerately, taking my sister from him and whispering in her ear, just loud enough for us to hear, "How pitiful, since you love him so much, why don't I help you two step into the light?" She stiffened. But I had already turned to the guests with an apologetic smile. The camera flashes lit up again, capturing the touching scene of the Jiang family's eldest daughter gently supporting her drunken sister. Yet, before we had taken 2 steps, a meticulously planned accident unfolded. A paparazzi studio notorious for chasing sensational gossip suddenly dropped a bombshell video across major social platforms with a provocative headline, "Shocking, Vera Jiang's fiancé, CEO Cade, caught cheating with her younger sister before wedding, wealthy sisters entangled in a melodramatic love triangle." Click the link to find a meticulously edited yet crystal clear video compilation. Cade Yang and Nova Jiang kissing in dimly lit corners, intimate silhouettes behind the curtains of a 7-star hotel, and even a slightly higher definition clip revealing Nova Jiang's profile and Cade Yang's back in a steamy scene. On a disheveled bed, Nova Jiang straddles his waist, turning away from the camera to coquettishly tease, "Brother-in-law, who's better between me and my sister?" Ah, Cade Yang's emotionally charged face is vividly captured in the close-up shot. The internet exploded in an instant. The hashtag #CadeYangCheats with sister-in-law rocketed to the top of the trending list, followed by a blazing red explosive character. The comments section was completely overrun. "Holy shit, scandal of the year, Yang, you scumbag. Acting all decent on the surface but messing around with your sister-in-law behind the scenes. Nova Jiang, isn't that Vera Jiang's own sister? Oh my god, even rabbits don't eat the grass by their burrows. This is disgusting." My heart aches for Vera, the ballet goddess, so talented, betrayed by both her fiancé and her own sister. The drama in your circle is unreal. Dropping this bombshell the night before the engagement, that's just cruel. Calculating the psychological trauma for the goddess, can this engagement even go ahead? At first, it was just an eerie commotion in the corner of the banquet hall. A few wealthy heirs were huddled together with their phones, whispering and occasionally gasping dramatically. It wasn't until the Lin Group's executive assistant, in her 10-centimeter heels, hurried over to the chairman and whispered in his ear that the old gentleman's silver fork clattered onto his plate with a loud clang. Like a spreading plague, waves of shock rippled through the crowd at an alarming speed. Soon, all eyes, astonished, disdainful, gleeful, sympathetic, like countless needles, simultaneously pierced toward Cade Yang on stage, whose face had instantly turned as pale as paper. And Nova Jiang in the corner below, equally ashen-faced, wishing she could vanish into the ground. The most delightful part was Cade Yang's expression, first flushing a liverish red, then fading to a deathly pallor, before finally settling into a gratifying shade of grey defeat. His gaze locked onto me across the crowd, pupils trembling violently, sending out a desperate plea for help. Amusing, he actually had the audacity to think I would speak up for him. The flashlights immediately caught the direction of his gaze, countless lenses instantly turned toward me. I stood in the crowd like a beautiful sculpture suddenly drained of its soul. My meticulously applied makeup couldn't conceal the sudden pallor of my cheeks. My body first stiffened, then began to tremble uncontrollably, my hollow eyes fixed on the man on stage who had instantly become a stranger, filled with disbelief, overwhelming anguish, and utter confusion. My lips quivered slightly, as if silently demanding, "Why?" Then, under the breathless gaze of everyone, large, glistening teardrops, like scattered pearls, fell without warning, rolling silently down my pale, smooth cheeks. No screams, no hysteria, only a silent, devastating heartbreak after being utterly destroyed. These soundless tears held more power than any accusation. The scene fell into dead silence. Even the shutter sounds paused for a moment. Everyone was stunned by this overwhelming grief and sense of brokenness. The next second, as if I could no longer bear this crushing blow, my body swayed violently before collapsing backward limply. My female companion gasped and caught me. "Vera Jiang, Cade Yang cried out from the stage, instinctively trying to rush over to hold me, only to accidentally knock over the champagne tower. The shattered crystal glasses exploded on the floor. When people are speechless, they truly are at a loss for words, just when it's time to wrap up and leave work. You still come to provoke me, fine then, I'll work a bit longer and send you off with a bang. So, lifting my tear-streaked face, I mustered all my strength and, looking at him and all the cameras, slowly and despairingly shook my head, saying, "We're calling off the engagement." "No, let me explain." Cade Yang finally grabbed hold of me. His tie askew around his neck. "It's a misunderstanding. Someone's trying to sabotage us." I looked at the veins bulging at his temples and suddenly laughed. The smile froze him in place. Like prey caught in a trap, finally realizing the gentle snare hides sharp teeth, a slap landed with precision, ensuring my meticulously manicured nails left 3 bloody streaks across his face. He froze in shock, and I seized the moment to break free from his grip. Then straightened my swaying figure into a blade's edge. The fishtail hem of my dress swept over shattered champagne flutes, each step echoing through the breathless silence of the crowd. Under a storm of camera flashes and complex gazes, I walked, slow, deliberate, unshaken, out of this opulent hall dripping with lies and betrayal. I tossed the diamond earrings into the trash. These globally limited edition gifts were bought by Cade Yang last month in Milan, during his affair with Nova Jiang. Now, like certain people's sincerity, they're nothing but cheap counterfeits. Outside the revolving door, my private driver had already opened the car door. The night wind swept ginkgo leaves past my feet as I took one last glance at the brightly lit banquet hall. By sunrise tomorrow, some would forever dwell in the shadows, while my name would be etched flawlessly in the victim column of every press release. This time, I would no longer be the target of public condemnation. The court of public opinion would stand firmly on my side. Public opinion exploded overnight. Cade Yang's meticulously crafted image as a talented young man and devoted partner collapsed in a single night, transforming him into the universally despised scum of the century. Nova Jiang was branded with vicious labels like scheming bitch, ungrateful wretch, and green tea girl. Her status as the second daughter of the Jiang family offered no protection. Instead, it only invited more vitriol and scorn. The Yang family was in complete chaos. Mr. Yang was furious, while Mrs. Yang, Chen Xinyi, was so angry she nearly had a heart attack. She cried and scolded Cade Yang. How could you do such a thing? What's wrong with Vera Jiang? What does that Nova Jiang even amount to? Aside from her face, what does she have? A good-for-nothing who can't even get into college. You've utterly humiliated our Yang family. Cade Yang was overwhelmed, trying to contact me to explain, apologize, and make amends, through calls, messages, and even showing up at my doorstep. But I either gave him the cold shoulder or had my bodyguards turn him away. I blocked him on all platforms. 3 days later, with the help of my studio's PR team, I chose the perfect moment to open a personal social media account and went live directly. No glamorous makeup, no exquisite gown. I sat by the window with a bare face, dressed in simple white loungewear. The sunlight streaming in made my complexion appear even paler, with heavy dark circles under my eyes, exuding a fragile and exhausted aura, as if I had just recovered from a serious illness. The number of viewers in the live stream instantly skyrocketed to a terrifying figure. I wasn't crying, but my voice carried a hoarse and forced calmness, making it all the more sorrowful. Hello everyone, I'm Vera Jiang. I believe everyone is already aware of what has happened these past few days. I'm truly sorry for occupying public resources in this manner. These past few days have been the darkest and most painful of my life. To be betrayed simultaneously by the lover I trusted most and the sister I cherished the most. This pain is beyond words. In the frame, my eyes are hollow, gazing blankly ahead as if out of focus. With only my eyelashes fluttering slightly. Utterly poetic. What's done is done. No amount of blame or resentment can change the facts. The only thing I'm grateful for is seeing the truth before the engagement, though the price is too painful. I paused, took a deep breath, as if mustering every ounce of strength, before slowly uttering the next words, each syllable crystal clear. Feelings can't be forced, since Cade Yang and Nova Jiang truly love each other. At this point, my voice noticeably choked, fighting back immense pain. After a few seconds of silence, I struggled to continue. Then, I choose to step aside. I will let them be, wish them happiness. The moment the words fell, a teardrop as big as a bean finally couldn't be held back, heavily landing on the back of my hand. I quickly lowered my head, raising my hand to wipe it away, but that moment of vulnerability and suppressed sorrow was infinitely magnified by the camera. The live stream went completely wild. The barrage flooded the screen like a tsunami. A sister, don't cry. My heart aches for you. Let them be together. Sis, you're too kind. Do they even deserve it? Trashy man and shameless woman deserve each other. Vera Jiang is so classy. This is what a true goddess looks like. Knows when to hold on and when to let go. Cade Yang and Nova Jiang. Come out and face the music. Look at what you've done to our goddess. Don't be sad. Sis, you deserve better. Shine on your own. This live stream elevated my image of being considerate of the big picture, putting the overall situation first, and remaining kind and selfless despite being hurt to its peak. My fan count skyrocketed. Countless casual viewers became devoted followers. The topic trended everywhere, and my commercial value soared even higher. More importantly, the entire internet was heartbroken for Vera Jiang, while the despicable couple faced a storm of condemnation. The phrase "I'll step aside for you" left him with no way out. Amid the tsunami of public opinion, Cade Yang was backed into a corner. When Nova Jiang showed up at his doorstep holding a pregnancy test, Mrs. Yang smashed a teacup on the spot. How dare such a lowly woman set foot in the Yang family? But the online backlash was even more terrifying. Under the trending #ultimate_scumbag, the Yang family's stock price plummeted for 3 consecutive days. The board of directors issued an ultimatum. In the end, to protect his reputation and the company's interests, he compromised. He finally married his beloved Nova Jiang. A wedding that was extremely low-key, even somewhat shabby, was hastily held in the Hibiscus Hall of the Marriott Hotel. Nova Jiang walked in, dragging her overly long train. The crooked stitches at the waistline of her wedding dress reminded her of the day she failed the college entrance exam. Her sister's acceptance letter and her own test paper, equally glaring. Cade Yang stood desolately by the champagne tower, his tailored suit looking as if it had been rented during the ring exchange. His gaze kept darting toward the door, his fingertips conveying resistance. Nova Jiang suddenly remembered their first confession of love. It was after her sister's victory celebration, when he had said she was the only one he truly loved. Please cut the cake. The sugar flowers on the 3-tiered cake were crooked, much like her perpetually failing home economics assignments. Mrs. Yang wiped her wrist with a wet towel after Nova had touched it, and the guests' whispers drifted into her ears, mocking her lack of grace. Nowhere near as good as her sister. Amid the clinking of champagne glasses, Nova Jiang clenched her bouquet, unable to comprehend how things had come to this. Sister, always outshone by sister, yes. Her sister has been outstanding since childhood, excelling in everything, and she has always lived in her shadow. Even when she found someone she loved, because it was related to her sister, she only dared to be with him in secret. But, does that make her the bad one? Clearly, if her love hadn't been exposed, she was already prepared to endure a lifetime of grievances, silently giving up her beloved to her sister without any recognition. Now she finally doesn't have to endure anymore. But why does she still feel it's not as happy as she imagined? Married life is even more unspeakable. Cindy loathes this daughter-in-law to the core, the one who ruined her perfect daughter-in-law, made her son a laughingstock, and rose to power through pregnancy. She pours all her anger and resentment onto Nova Jiang. Look at what you've cooked, pig slop. You're not even worth one of Vera Jiang's fingers. All you do is hug your phone and giggle like a fool. At Vera Jiang's age, how many international awards has she already won? And you, useless, buying so many clothes, can you even earn money? All you know is how to spend my son's money. Wastrel, slacking off again, aren't you? Why don't you get a job? What curse has fallen upon our Yang family to marry such a jinx like you? Nova Jiang's once proud traits of being innocent and carefree and unworldly became fatal flaws under the grind of daily chores and the harsh criticism of her sharp-tongued mother-in-law. She couldn't cook, couldn't manage household chores, and had no idea how to please her shrewd mother-in-law. Her attempts to argue or resist only invited even more vicious curses from Cindy and increasingly impatient scoldings from Cade Yang. Can't you just keep quiet? Can't you endure a little? Mom's health isn't good. Nova Jiang was stunned, as if seeing the man she loved for the first time. He was actually siding with his mother against her. In reality, Cade Yang's life was no better. His standing at the company had plummeted. The superiors who once held him in high regard now looked at him with strange, sidelong glances. After his demotion, important projects no longer came his way. His siblings from the main family were frantically snatching up resources that should have been his. And the whispers behind his back from colleagues never ceased. The professional setbacks, combined with the endless quarrels between his wife and mother at home, along with Nova Jiang's growing complaints and tears, left him utterly exhausted and increasingly irritable. When Nova Jiang was pushed by Cindy during yet another heated argument, causing her to fall and lose the child that had barely held their twisted marriage together, Cade Yang's rage finally erupted. Staring at the weeping Nova Jiang on the hospital bed, who could only blame him and his mother, and listening to her shrill accusations, the long-suppressed resentment and frustration overwhelmed his reason. "Shut up, you lunatic, it's all your fault. If you hadn't seduced me, how could I have ended up like this? How could I have lost Vera Jiang?" Like a raging beast, he lunged forward and delivered a fierce slap across Nova Jiang's pale face. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the hospital room. Nova Jiang clutched her face, completely stunned, before bursting into even more heart-wrenching sobs. Cindy was also startled by her son's fury, but seeing Nova Jiang in that state gave her a sense of satisfaction. She only half-heartedly pulled Cade Yang back, saying, all right, a couple of slaps to vent your anger is enough. Don't go too far, it's bad luck." Cade Yang gasped for breath, staring at the disheveled, tear-streaked woman before him, her eyes filled with venomous hatred, the stark contrast to the eternally elegant, radiant Vera Jiang of his memories twisted like a venomous serpent in his heart. Gnawing at him with regret, he slammed the door shut and stormed out, leaving behind a wrecked hospital room and the desperate sobs of Nova Jiang. Just as Nova Jiang, physically and emotionally exhausted, lay on the cold hospital bed scrolling through her phone in search of solace, an overwhelming flood of news notifications delivered an even more devastating blow. Ballet goddess Vera Jiang ascends to glory. Wins gold at prestigious international ballet competition. Vera Jiang stuns Lausanne. The Eastern Swan captivates the world. Exclusive. Vera Jiang's post-match interview. Reborn from the ashes. Art is my only salvation. The news featured high-definition photos of me on the world's top stage. Under the spotlight, I wore a pristine white ballet tutu, standing as tall and graceful as a swan, with every leap and spin radiating power and elegance. My gaze was firm and bright, brimming with confidence and vitality, like a phoenix reborn from flames, so dazzling it was almost blinding. In the interview clip, I smiled at the camera and spoke calmly and philosophically about that past. Yes, I've been through some things, but dance helped me rediscover myself. It taught me that a woman's true worth lies not in depending on someone, but in becoming someone. These words, like the loudest slap, struck Nova Jiang hard across the face, and struck the hearts of everyone watching this absurd drama. Nova Jiang stared fixedly at the radiant figure on the screen, who seemed to stand atop the clouds looking down upon the world. Then she lowered her gaze to her own body wrapped in bandages, her greasy hair, the faded hospital gown she wore, and the cold, oppressive, and malicious hospital room around her. A surge of overwhelming jealousy, resentment, and bitterness erupted like molten lava, instantly incinerating what little remained of her rationality. She let out a piercing scream, one that sounded almost inhuman, and hurled her phone violently against the wall. The screen shattered instantly, mirroring the complete collapse of her life at that moment. "Sister, it's all your fault. You did this to me. I won't let you get away with this." And just then, news came that struck her like a thunderbolt. The Jiang family had undergone a complete upheaval. Jiang Yubai was sued by Yi Jian on multiple charges including bigamy, transferring marital assets, and embezzlement of public funds. With the full support of the Yi family, Yi Jian had long since completely stripped Jiang Yubai of his power. The once illustrious President Jiang fell from grace overnight. His company went into bankruptcy liquidation, his personal assets were frozen, and he faced the prospect of imprisonment. What shattered Nova Jiang even more was Yi Jian publicly presenting a DNA report in court, completely denying Nova Jiang's identity as a daughter of the Jiang family. Overnight, Nova Jiang went from being the second daughter of the Jiang family to a widely known bastard child born to Su Mian, the mistress. A complete and utter joke. Nova Jiang lost the last shred of footing she had in the Yang family. Cindy's insults grew even harsher. Jinx, bastard. Not a single good thing has happened to our Yang family since you stepped through the door. Get out. Get the hell out of here. Cade Yang's gaze at her was filled with nothing but naked disgust and exhaustion. As if he were looking at a pile of filthy trash, he began staying out all night, frequently hitting her, and always cursing her with words like crazy woman. How could this happen? Why did it come to this? Despair and resentment burned fiercely in Nova Jiang's chest, but for now, the priority was to go home and figure out the situation. The Yang family was no longer a place she could stay. She refused to accept this. She was the daughter her parents had loved for over 20 years. Now, suddenly, she was labeled an illegitimate child. She was the victim. It was the Jiang family who owed her. She had to go back. She needed to find her father, her mother, her sister. She wanted answers. She would make them feel guilty, make them compensate. Nova Jiang used the little money she had saved to hail a taxi, heading straight for the Jiang family's old mansion where she had lived for 20 years. The car stopped in front of the familiar wrought iron gate. The grand mansion, once a symbol of her status, now looked bitterly cold under the setting sun. Without caring for appearances, she pounded on the gate, screaming, open up, let me in. Dad, Mom, sister. The door of the old mansion shook violently under her pounding. A servant's startled face flashed briefly through the crack. The door opened, and Nova Jiang, wrapped in a shroud of cold and disarray, stumbled inside like a frightened sparrow that had accidentally flown into a gilded cage. The living room was brightly lit, as if it were daylight. Suitcases stood in a row. Silently awaiting the journey, Mother Yi Jian was quietly giving instructions to the butler, her profile sharp and efficient, a sight long unseen. Lu Wei, my real younger sister, stood slender yet upright beside me, murmuring something in a low voice, her eyes clear and bright, tinged with the caution and curiosity of a newcomer. In the corner, Father Jiang Yubai shrank into the shadows of the sofa, his face ashen, like a forgotten old ornament. The scene stung Nova Jiang's eyes. Frozen in the doorway, her voice sliced through the warm air, sharp and shrill. What are you all doing? Her gaze held the shock and anguish of a drowning person who clutches at a lifeline only to find it covered in thorns. Her eyes finally locked onto Lu Wei, brimming with utter grievance. Who is she? What right does she have to be here? Dad, Mom, sis, are you abandoning me? Are you really going to cast me aside for a stranger? As she spoke, her emotions grew more melancholic, descending into hysterical accusations laced with her usual spoiled arrogance. The next second, she recognized Lu Wei's face, her pupils contracting sharply as her bravado instantly froze, replaced by a look of sheer terror, as if she had seen a ghost. Shun, Lu Wei. The air tensed abruptly. Lu Wei's body stiffened instantly, her clear eyes darkening with the humiliation and pain I had once glimpsed in her old photographs. Mother noticed it too, tightening her grip on Lu Wei's hand. Nova Jiang's momentary terror was swiftly overtaken by deeper panic and malice. Ha, thief. Country bumpkin. She tried to arm herself with venom, raising her hand to strike the imposter. Slap, a sharp, crisp sound rang out. Far harsher than expected, it was Lu Wei who grabbed Nova's hand and swiftly slapped back. Nova Jiang was struck so hard she staggered and crashed into a low cabinet. Half her face quickly swelling red, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, looking as disheveled as a broken doll. Clutching her face, she screamed in disbelief. She recognized this girl. She was the niece of Aunt Shun from school, the one they used to make her sit on like a stool. Could she really be her real mother's child? But back when she had people deal with her, she never seemed this strong. Lu Wei withdrew her hand, her fingertips trembling slightly, but her spine remained straight as steel, her voice cold and sharp as a blade. This slap is for the torn textbooks, the soiled uniform, and the locked cubicle door. Nova Jiang. See clearly. In this household, you are the true thief. And by the way, my name is Lu Wei. Her words were calm, but there might have been a faint unease in her heart as she glanced back at me and Mom. This scene was already a far cry from the family reunion in her past life. Back then, the authority in the household still lay in Father's hands. Even after his biological daughter was found, Father made no secret of his favor for Nova Jiang and his disdain for Yi Luwei, making her life at home far from easy. And now, Yi Luwei has the support of both me and Mom behind her. After hitting Nova Jiang and seeing the affirming, supportive nods from me and Mom, Yi Luwei looked at Nova Jiang with even more confidence, as if all her shyness had vanished. Nova Jiang completely lost her composure. Her once doting mother and sister weren't helping her at all. In the past, she had always resented her sister and mother for pushing her to study, planning her career too strictly, and making her feel unloved, preferring her father who took her out to eat and play every day and never got angry. But now, in comparison, her sister and mother seemed even colder than before, leaving her even more unsettled and afraid. She could only wail and throw herself at her father, the only one who stood by her side. Jiang Yubai held Nova in his arms, his face filled with heartache, wanting to speak up for his illegitimate daughter, but when he saw our gazes, he faltered and backed down. Bullying the weak, that was always his way, even when facing his own daughter. Seeing that her father was useless, Nova Jiang changed tactics and turned to us, hurling incoherent curses and excuses, a far cry from her usual arrogance. As the distance to Luwei closed, my mother stepped forward, shielding Luwei completely behind her. Her voice was not loud, but it was steady and firm. So, the scars on my Luwei have your mark too. Good, very good, Nova Jiang. Is this why your grades are so poor? Because you spend your days bullying classmates and being the other woman in affairs? She took a deep breath, her voice filled with heartbreak, and said through tears, "You're truly not my child. Throw her out." The mother's voice was resolute. The bodyguard stepped forward, dragging her like a sack of garbage. Nova Jiang's wails and curses were cut off by the heavy wrought iron gate. Jiang Yubai wanted to intervene, but in the end, she did nothing. With a dull thud, the door closed. Inside, the lights remained bright. Outside, the night was as dark as ink, the cold biting to the bone. A mistaken outsider, shut away in the past by our own hands. Asterisk asterisk. Night fell, the chill biting to the bone. Nova Jiang, driven out of the house, collapsed onto the icy ground, her face stinging from the slap. Her heart filled with confusion and boundless hatred. All that remained in her was the utter, desolate isolation of being abandoned by the entire world, nowhere to go, nowhere to call home. The distraught Nova Jiang wandered aimlessly through the streets when she suddenly remembered her birth mother, Su Mion, a name as forbidden as a taboo in the Jiang family. She had seen Aunt Shen at school before, a gentle and beautiful woman who often gave her gifts and took her out to play. So, was she her father's true love after all? If this Aunt Shen was truly her mother, then surely she would help her, wouldn't she? Like clutching at the last straw, Nova Jiang took what little belongings she had left and, under the cover of night, set out on a journey to find her birth mother. Little did she know that Su Mion had already fled with the money when Jiang Yubai fell from power, vanishing without a trace. This quest for family was destined to be the beginning of another despair. After numerous twists and turns, she finally arrived at the upscale residential area in a corner of the city, only to be scolded by the property manager. They sold the house and left long ago. Who knows where they went? With her last hope shattered, Nova Jiang collapsed onto the cold hallway floor, despair coiling around her like a venomous snake. Cade Yang's fists, her mother-in-law's curses, the pain of miscarriage, and her birth mother's abandonment, all pushed her to the brink of collapse. Aunt Shen is gone. She doesn't want her either. How could fate be so unfair? Her sister has everything, yet refuses to spare even a shred of happiness for her. Crouched in a cheap motel, Nova Jiang faced the mirror, her pale and haggard face streaked with tears, trembling as she picked up a shard of broken glass, ready to end her life. Suddenly, a knock sounded at the door. Outside stood Li Moen, impeccably dressed in a suit, exuding charm. "Miss Jiang, perhaps I could treat you to a cup of coffee. You look like you could use some help." His deep eyes held just the right amount of sympathy, sending a flutter through Nova's heart. This man, is it him, that gentle and handsome editor uncle she met while studying abroad after failing the college entrance exam years ago? Why is he here? Forgetting her own embarrassment, she instinctively and timidly approached him. After all, she still had a pretty face to rely on, for the desperate Nova Jiang. Lee Moen's arrival was nothing short of a lifeline to a drowning person. Is this the only light that belongs to her? Cast from the depths of the abyss, Lee Moen took her home. Sunlight flooded the penthouse as his slender fingers pushed a cup of hot cocoa toward her. Your sister's kind of perfection is nothing but refined hypocrisy. Too fake. You, on the other hand, feel alive, like someone who truly lives in this world. Nova Jiang stared blankly at the reflection on his cufflinks. Lee Moen suddenly remembered something and pulled an old journal from a drawer, a memento she had given him during her study abroad, containing drafts of her stories. Nova, are you still writing now? Nova Jiang froze for a moment, recalling her dream. Clenching her teeth, she nodded firmly. I will write my story. Maybe, just maybe, I can become as renowned as my sister. No, perhaps I can even surpass her. Under Lee Moen's encouragement, Nova Jiang wrote, listening to the spring rain at night. In the book, she portrayed herself as an innocent woman yearning for love, maneuvering between several outstanding men and achieving both fame and fortune. Yet, she had a disabled, utterly despicable elder sister and brother-in-law, along with a country bumpkin younger sister who suddenly appeared, all constantly plotting against her in the shadows. In the end, she defeated all the villains and flew away with the best male lead among several men, living happily ever after. The plot was melodramatic, but it excelled in its delicate writing and immersive quality, blending her tumultuous experiences with the melancholy of early youth pain literature. In an era where love reigns supreme, it quickly became a sensation. Lee Moen signed the book under his company and then publicly promoted her with great fanfare. After several rounds of marketing, the book indeed became a massive hit. At the new book launch, Nova Jiang, dressed in designer brands, nestled close to Lee Moen, her smile radiant. During interviews, she deliberately mentioned themes like true love is priceless, breaking free from shackles, rebirth, and some women may appear glamorous, but if no man loves them, their lives are ultimately worthless, subtly targeting her sister and Cade Yang. Lee Moen took the opportunity to wrap her arm around the new writer's waist affectionately, declaring their love and stating that she would have the company adapt her book into a movie. It seemed her life had finally taken a brand new turn. See, sister, I'm not worthless. I'll write countless stories, and I'll expose you in my stories too. Jiang Yuebai's bankruptcy came even faster than expected. On a chilly evening, a mud-splattered old car came to a stop outside the ornate wrought-iron gates of the private estate where my mother and I lived. Nestled at the foot of the distant suburban mountains, the car door opened, and out stepped Jiang Yubai, gaunt and hollow-eyed. Gone was the refined, spirited man of the past. His expensive suit was crumpled and stained, his hair mostly gray, and his steps unsteady and faltering. Behind him followed an equally haggard and disheveled Cade Yang, his face unshaven and weary, his gaze, greedy and conflicted, fixed on the brightly lit European-style mansion deep within the estate. As if trying to pierce through the layers of trees and distance to catch a glimpse of the figure who haunted his dreams with both longing and regret, Jiang Yubai took a deep breath and pressed the cold doorbell. His voice, hoarse and pleading, carried a tone of desperate supplication as he spoke into the intercom. Daughter, wife, please open the door, I beg you, for the sake of our past bond, save the Jiang Group, we're truly at the end of our rope. On the intercom screen, the butler's expressionless face appeared. Apologies, MS, Jiang and MS, ye are not receiving guests. Wait, Jiang Yubai panicked, hurriedly pushing the dazed Cade Yang forward. Daughter, look, Cade Yang is here too. I know you love him the most, so I specifically called him here for you. He knows he was wrong. He truly regrets it. Back then, he was just blinded. He's always only had you in his heart. Give him a chance to apologize to you in person. Okay. Pushed by Jiang Yubai, Cade Yang seemed to snap out of his daze. He lunged at the cold iron gate, gripping the bars tightly with both hands. Shouting desperately at the camera with a voice full of do-or-die despair and a hint of deep affection he himself almost believed in. Vera Jiang, listen to me. I was the scoundrel. I wronged you. I was blinded by stupidity. I deserve to die. I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I regret it every single day and night. Nova Jiang and I were a mistake, a colossal mistake. I never loved her. The one I've always loved is you, Virajiang, only you, please, for the sake of all those years we shared. Forgive me just once. Give me another chance. I beg you to marry me. From now on, I'll do everything you say, Virajiang. His voice echoed through the empty foothills. Filled with desperation and pleading, on the spacious terrace of the second floor of the main house, I held a cup of warm floral tea, leaning quietly against the white jade railing. The late autumn wind carried a chill, rustling through my meticulously cared-for long hair. I wore a custom-made cashmere gown. Luxurious and comfortable, the estate was warm and bright, a stark contrast to the disheveled and pitiable state of the father and son outside the iron gates. As if they belonged to two entirely separate worlds, my mother's footsteps approached from behind. She walked up beside me, dressed in a crisp suit, clearly having just finished an important video conference. She glanced toward the iron gates, her eyes icy, laced with a hint of triumphant mockery. Pathetic clowns. I gently swirled the tea in my cup, watching the misty steam rise without speaking. The intermittent cries and pleas from downstairs drifted up as if muffled by a thick pane of glass. Distant and indistinct, Mother tilted her head to look at me, her gaze carrying a trace of barely perceptible inquiry. Virajiang, are you thinking? I set down the teacup. The porcelain base meeting the glass tabletop with a crisp, delicate clink, the corners of my lips curved slowly into a smile, one utterly devoid of warmth, chilling to its core. Butler, my voice came through the intercom. Clear and composed, it's too noisy outside, please have them leave. If they refuse, my gaze fell upon the corner of the terrace, where a bucket of clear water sat. The very water the gardener had just used to irrigate the precious orchids. Use that bucket to sober them up. Yes, young mistress, came the butler's respectful voice. Soon, the estate's heavy side door creaked open a crack. Two burly, expressionless bodyguards emerged, carrying a massive plastic bucket between them. A glimmer of hope instantly ignited in Jiang Yubai and Cade Yang's eyes, thinking we were about to relent. Virajiang, I knew it. Cade Yang took an excited step forward. Splash! A bucket of ice-cold water was abruptly and mercilessly dumped over their heads. The force was precise, drenching the father and son from head to toe, chilling them to the bone. The cold wind of late autumn blew, instantly freezing the two men to the bone, their teeth chattering uncontrollably. Their hair and expensive suits, though now tattered, clung damply to their bodies, leaving them as disheveled as drowned rats. Ah! Cade Yang let out a short, startled cry from the cold. You, Father Yang was both shocked and furious, his lips turning purple from the chill as he pointed at the bodyguard, too angry to speak. The bodyguard set down the empty bucket, his voice flat and emotionless, like a machine executing orders. Gentlemen, please leave. If you persist, next time. It won't be water we throw. With that, he didn't spare them another glance, turned around, and slammed the side door shut with a loud clang. The icy water trickled down his hair, cheeks, and neck, seeping into his clothes and leaving Cade Yang shivering uncontrollably. But the bodyguard's final cold words cut deeper than the freezing water, piercing him with an even more bone-chilling coldness and humiliation. Jiang, Virajiang, she truly was no longer the Virajiang who had once loved him with her life. She was now the radiant and untouchable queen of ballet, the mistress of this magnificent estate, and he, Cade Yang, in her eyes, had become nothing more than trash, unworthy of even a second glance. Overwhelming regret and despair surged over him like a frigid tide, drowning him in an instant. His legs gave way, unable to support him any longer, and he collapsed with a splash onto the cold, wet ground. The murky, muddy water soaked through his knees, thoroughly drenching the last shred of his pitiful dignity. He gazed at the brightly lit, distant main building and burst into uncontrollable sobs. The sound of his weeping echoed through the silent foothills, filled with boundless sorrow and belated, unnoticed repentance. At that very moment, he received an anonymous email containing a video of Nova Jiang and Li Moen flaunting their love in a high-profile display after publishing several books. The film adaptation of Nova's work gradually wrapped up production. The popularity of the promotional trailer led more people to re-examine the truth between the two sisters. Public opinion was no longer overwhelmingly in favor of Virajiang. People always tend to support the underdog. But whether the underdog is innocent or not, no one bothers to investigate. In short, several months after Nova Jiang left the Yang family. The first piece of information Cade saw about Nova was in this email. Nova Jiang, behind his back, being all lovey-dovey with someone else at a new book release event. Back then, he had secretly kissed Nova Jiang in the fire escape behind Vera Jiang's back. Now, from the same angle, Lee Moen was leaning down to adjust her earring for her. How ridiculous. Once he betrayed Vera Jiang, and now he has suffered the same betrayal. Is the taste of betrayal really so heartbreaking? Vera Jiang loved herself so much. Back then, she must have endured a lot of pain. Cade started searching for Nova Jiang's name again, only to find that Nova Jiang was spreading rumors about Vera Jiang in all sorts of ways, both overtly and covertly, in books and beyond. Some dancers have chaotic private lives and use family influence to suppress newcomers. The most glaring part is the cover line of Listening to the Spring Rain at Night, based on a true story. Exposing the filth behind the glamour. The top comment in the book review section reads, "Would Vera Jiang die of anger if she saw this?" Cade Yang was furious. He was fired from his company, his parents fell ill, and he became a laughingstock, all because of Nova Jiang. Now, not only did she cheat on him, but she also slandered his own sister. No wonder Vera didn't open the door for him earlier or forgive him. She must have seen these messages and thought he was behind them. This madwoman climbed the social ladder by selling scandals and even ruined his chance to win Vera's heart back. With bloodshot eyes like a trapped beast, Cade, after downing several bottles of whiskey, stormed into the book tour event of rising star author Nova Jiang. Having found her schedule details publicly available online, the LED lights in the dressing room cast a stark white glow on Nova Jiang's face. She was applying a newly released shade of lipstick while her phone screen displayed the exciting news of her book surpassing 1 million copies in sales. Suddenly, the deafening crash of the door being shattered sent her powder compact flying. Cade Yang barged in reeking of alcohol, his eyes bloodshot like a frenzied animal. "Nova Jiang, how dare you!" Lee Moen's bodyguards instantly pinned him to the ground. But Cade Yang grabbed a brass ornament from the vanity and hurled it viciously at Nova Jiang's head. She raised her arms to block, only to hear a sickening crack before seeing her own limbs twisted at grotesque angles. Before the scream could fade, Lee Moen had already led his men to capture Cade. As his polished leather shoe pressed into the back of Cade Yang's knee, Nova Jiang stared blankly at her own hands. Numb with pain, she let out a wail of despair. Cade, I hate you." After emergency admission, the doctors diagnosed that due to comminuted fractures in both arms and joints, which had triggered an infection leading to sepsis, they advised that amputation was necessary to save her life. Nova Jiang strongly opposed the idea, but Lee Moen said affectionately, "It's okay. Even if you're disabled, I'll still love you. Staying alive is what matters most. Once the surgery is over, we'll get married." On the other hand, Lee Moen reported the incident to the police. Cade Yang was criminally detained for intentionally causing severe injury. Lee Moen easily walked free by claiming self-defense, and by proposing to Nova despite her disability, he gained a reputation as a devoted lover. These two incidents made Nova Jiang's books all become huge hits, and Lee Moen was promoted 3 levels in the company. However, after marriage, Nova Jiang secluded herself in the apartment. Lee Moen, who only visited once every few days, stood in the backlight and brought over a few beautiful young ghostwriters, saying gently, "Keep dictating, the manuscript is due by the end of the month, or else there won't be any living allowance for this month." Then he turned and left. Inside the room, a group of ghostwriters surrounded her, calling her sister, and urging her to create quickly. Nova Jiang suddenly recalled the plot she had fabricated in the book. That disabled ballerina ended up growing old alone in a wheelchair. In the mirror, her reflection gradually overlapped with the image of the mad sister she had written about. On the balcony, I picked up the still warm cup of tea and took a small sip. The mellow liquid slid down my throat, bringing a hint of warmth. In the distance, the neon lights of the city flickered under the night sky, like a flowing river of stars, and beneath my feet, this estate belonging to my mother and me remained peaceful and steadfast. My mother's hand rested gently on my shoulder. Warm and strong. "It's all over, Vera Jiang." I gazed into the distance with a faint smile, my eyes reflecting a tranquility and relief I had never known since my rebirth. "No, Mom, My voice was soft, yet carried the strength of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. It's a new beginning, under the spotlight. The pristine white dance skirt swirls into the most beautiful arc. My toes stand firmly at the center of the stage, like a snow lotus that, after weathering storms, finally blooms with pride. The audience erupts in thunderous applause, countless camera flashes merging into a sea of light. How nice. This time, Vera Jiang's life will have its curtain call directed by me, and its grand opening orchestrated by me alone.